So what the media has coined killer bee, I think here's how the story goes. In 1932, a Jesuit priest was on some form of sabbatical in Africa. He saw that there were these bees that were bug resistant and drought tolerant and aggressive and super produced wax and super produced honey and just outworked the bees that he had seen in the Americas. So he brought, I don't know how many colonies, 1, 2, 100. He brought colonies with him from Africa to Sao Paulo, Brazil. And when those bees got there, one of the things that he didn't know about those bees was that they do this thing called absconding. When the queen realizes that the honey flow or the nectar flow is gone in that region, she flies so that her hive remains alive, because they can so make honey and so produce wax that they're cool with abandoning their beehive. Now, it's my theory that they actually just made a circle and what these bees do, because we raise bees in Africa now, in the South Sudan, and help this war-torn group of people survive through the sale of the African honey that we have. And so my theory was that these bees leave a hive, go to another hive, make another hive, and then complete the circuit, and that they'll eventually come back to that first beehive, because that's what the nectar flow is. Now, one of the African beekeepers was talking about how their African bees, if you're not constantly feeding them in times of drought, will move. He said, but they'll always come back. And so back to that cycle, it's probably true, because they're interested in survival. They're not really interested in much else. And so anyway, back to the Jesuit priest. So the bees abscond, and so that means that the bees leave their hive, and so they go places, and because other bees don't gestate as quickly as an African bee, they can send a drone in, and it's the drone that carries the genetics. So the drone goes in and he carries the genetics, and he mates with whatever other honeybee, and so then the characteristic of that beehive becomes much more aggressive, and etc. And they will attack, and they're quicker. But I use the term mean bee and nice bee. What I call a mean bee, most people would call Africanized bees. But if you were to do the actual genetics on the bees that I call mean bees, you would find out probably that 70% of them are docile Eastern European honeybees that have just grown so large that they have an army to send out after you. So if you have 100,000, 200,000 bees in a hive, they can expend 10% of that hive in guard bees. Now, if you only have a beehive that has 7,000, 8,000 bees in it, again, back to the 10%, they can only expend X amount of soldiers, and that's to defend the entire hive. Okay, but if you have 100,000 bees, they can send out 7,000 bees. It only takes 1,500 bees to kill you. So they'll come out and they'll sting and sting and sting and sting until the big bear goes away and leaves their honey away. That's basically what we are, is the big bear. And so now, killer bees in Africa, the bees that American media has coined killer bees, are hybrid African bees. In Africa, they have pure African bees, and they don't call them killer bees. They just call them honeybees, and they tend to them, and they take their honey and they make wax products from their wax, etc. Now, the super difference is that in Europe, for 5,000 years, if that's possible, 2,500 years according to the Judeo calendar, beekeeping is a guy in a white suit, manicuring, tendering, feeding, caring for, helping the bees defend themselves from the other predators. In Africa, beekeeping is a guy with a stick, smashing, and a black guy with a stick, smashing the beehive down. Now, beekeepers have found out that no longer is there a black face mask on beekeeper suits, because they found out that these hybrid bees will attack that black mask. And the reason behind that is because these African bees, through thousands of years of evolution, are used to a big black bear coming with a big stick and knocking him down. And the quicker they can attack that big black bear, the quicker it goes away and leaves their beehive alone. So there's your difference in evolution. A guy in a white suit, a guy with a stick. So why are those bees meaner? Because they've been smacked around with a stick their whole life. And so are they truly dangerous? The answer to that is yes, even hell yes. They're super aggressive and dangerous. But a friend of mine that's an entomologist, he said to me, look at it like this. If you took a German Shepherd and you took that German Shepherd and dropped it off in Sao Paulo, Brazil, by the time it's puppies, 40 years later, got to Matamoros, Mexico, it'd be a very vicious Chihuahua. So what we call killer bees are basically very vicious Chihuahuas.